For this video, I'm going to change it up a bit. I'm going to be talking about both games and a movie, or a movie franchise, I guess you could say. So, just as a heads up, I'm going to spoil the ever-living bejesus out of the original Matrix trilogy. So if you haven't seen that yet and you want to catch up, stop watching now.
You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So just a little while ago, we had the trailer for Matrix Resurrections come out. Ever since the fourth Matrix movie was announced, I've been wrecking my brain trying to figure out just how would making a fourth movie even be possible? 3 of the main characters are dead.
What?
Yeah, you heard me right. I did say 3. 2 of them we already saw die at the end of the third movie. Trinity went first, and then Neo posed as Jesus Christ and sacrificed himself for the greater good. So, who's the third character, you ask?
At last.
That's right. Morpheus is dead too.
What the fuck?
Okay, hold on. I know what you're thinking. Morpheus can't be dead. We clearly saw him alive and well at the end of the last movie. That's right, we did. But his story doesn't end there.
Sparks, how long have you been operating on this ship? 3 years. Then you ought to know by now. When she makes up her mind, you have one choice. You go with her, or you get the hell out of her way.
So back in 2003, shortly before the release of the second movie, a game called Enter the Matrix was released, where players could play as certain characters from the upcoming films. The game served as a way to experience the Matrix universe from a different character's perspective.
Is the drop still clean?
Niobe, this won't be easy.
The third film came out in 2003, where 2 years later, Path of Neo was released. This game had the player take control of Neo himself, retelling his journey from beginning to end, and even went as far as to include direct footage from the movie, if albeit told in a strange, fragmented, movie trailer-like way.
In the one hand, you'll have Morpheus's life.
You're going to tell me, or you're going to die.
And in the other hand, you'll have your own.
Stop.
One of you is going to die. Which one will be up to you.
Both of these games ended up getting kinda so-so results. Personally, I can vouch for Path of Neo, as every time I did another playthrough of that game, I would come across entirely new bugs that I've never seen before. It was so buggy that I would also come across new combat moves that I've never seen before as well. That's cool, I guess, but I digress. But ultimately, these 2 games were the only way to play anything Matrix-related in a video game. And according to the Wachowskis, they were also considered canon. But there is one possibly lesser-known game that came out between the 2, and it only came out for the PC, The Matrix Online, or as many called it later, MXO. When this game was announced, I was so hyped that I ended up rewatching all the films just so I could get immersed in the game's story. Oh boy, what a waste that was. The Matrix Online was an MMORPG, and just like the other 2 games, was also officially considered canon in the Matrix universe. But unlike Enter the Matrix, which was more of a side story, and Path of Neo, which was just a trilogy in the form of a game, Matrix Online was the only game to actually continue the story. The game used a lot of characters you had seen in the film, but probably the most iconic character is Morpheus. The story starts off well enough, with Morpheus, voiced by Lawrence Fishburne himself, currently upset that the machines refused to give up Neo's body, who had previously set the world at peace.
But I don't need second sight to know why you're here. What comes now? You've worked all your life for this. You found a savior, trained him, guided him, and he did the impossible. The thing you dared dream of when so many would not, could not.
I thought we could win this war, or lose it. If we won, yes, millions would die in their pods. But our days and years would be spent saving those we could and reclaiming the surface. Instead, we have peace. Neo found a way to save them all. Why won't they give up his remains? They say they haven't recycled them. They belong in Zion, in a holy place. He saved us. He saved them. He saved the Matrix.
Sounds like you found your purpose.
But is it right? Will I be successful?
One doesn't necessarily go with the other, does it?
Now, to my knowledge at this point in time, Matrix Online was one of the first, if not the first, online game that would update the game for free at regular intervals with new content and story. Today we call that live service games. Keep in mind this is still in an age where expansion packs was still a thing and was the only way to ever get new content. From my memory, the Matrix Online broke that mold. But this game took it one step further and actually scheduled live role-playing events, which to me was probably the best thing about this game. Developers would actually log into the game as characters from the films while a story is played out. These actors would fight alongside other players during live events, and at times even respond to other players accordingly. They were just like another player. They just looked like someone from the film. The game had heavily depended on players' interaction during these events, as whatever outcome would happen would also be considered canon. But shortly after the game's initial release, the first continuation of the in-game cutscene stories came out, and what a one to begin with! And people were not happy. That's how you write off a main character? He just gets pinned behind a building and gets shot. He doesn't even get to do anything cool or say a few last words. Talk about a ripoff.
Morpheus, you are more than a leader to us. You are a father.
This man, a man that can jump 100 feet in the air, survive his brain being tortured, a man that everyone and even Neo himself looked up to, the man who trained the frickin' One, just goes off missing and gets shot. That's a horrible way to do it. What a waste. The best thing I can come up with is that maybe Lawrence Fishburne didn't see the money really rolling in the game's future. And let's face it, he was right. So he quit while he was ahead. It might have been too sudden to get his character out of the story gracefully. But this is the best they could come up with?
Stop. I don't believe this is happening.
Well, it is, if the fourth movie uses this as canon. As for the game itself, well, it was graphically stunning for its time, and the developers absolutely nailed their adaptation of the Matrix universe. Everything from the New York-like suburban map, the music, the special effects, the choreographed martial arts, to the John Woo-style gunplay the films were known for were spot on. Unfortunately, the gameplay itself wasn't that very good. While the animations were amazing for an MMO, this was still in the time before real-time combat in an MMO was mainstream. Often you would have to lock yourself into CQC with a single target, and all this happened while other targets could pick at you. Whether you chose to use martial arts, guns, or even hacking attacks, the animations were all passive. The only input I remember this having was you simply choosing your stance while the enemy chose theirs. Let the dice roll and bam! Let a round of awesome animations begin while you sit and watch for the results. It was a form of rock, paper, scissors. The only other interaction at this point was to choose a different combat stance if you wanted, before the next turn starts to try and one-up the other guy. Eventually you would notice the animation would repeat, and just by looking at the first few seconds of one, you could tell whether you were going to score a hit or not way ahead of time. The only other form of combat the game had was traditional tap targeting. This allowed you to attack from a distance and to freely change your target between attacks, but it didn't look nearly as impressive as the locked CQC. The difference is jarring coming from a film and video game series where you go off guns blazing, and all you get here is... The game lasted only about 5 years before the servers were shut down, one of the shortest lifespans I've ever heard in an MMO, and to be honest, I only lasted less than a year myself. The hasty killing off of Morpheus turned me off the game's story almost completely, and I could only take the game's combat so much, or at least how it functioned. I was pretty much considering the franchise dead at this point. Personally, I think everyone was. So imagine my surprise when the announcement of a 4th movie coming up, full knowing the clusterfuck of a story I last remember it being in. What I do find curious, though, is that Lawrence Fishburne himself said that he wouldn't be in The Matrix 4, and that he has no idea why. He said it would make sense that people would ask me that, so it doesn't get old. I am not in the Matrix movie, and you'd have to ask Lana Wachowski why, because I don't have an answer for that. What? Really? He doesn't know why? Okay, I get it. Fishburne is an actor, and maybe gaming isn't his thing. It could be, but who knows. But don't tell me he doesn't know what happens to his own character in a video game who not only looks like him, but he actually voiced too. You would think someone at Sega or even Warner Brothers would at least tell him what happened to his own character. But let's take a look at the trailer. Okay, we got Neo, and we got Trinity, and...
Have we met?
None of them seem to remember each other. Okay, fine. This is called Matrix Resurrections after all, so maybe by some miracle the two came back to life. But I would be lying if I didn't say that sounds really cliche and was done just to have a 4th movie. But then we have Morpheus here and...
You don't know me. No?
Okay, he doesn't remember him either. Wait. That's not Morpheus anyway. That's just some other guy. Or is he?
Something's different.
Yahoo posted a picture of himself on Instagram from the trailer just saying Morpheus, and doesn't elaborate further. And no one but him is exactly sure what he's implying. Is he really Morpheus recast? Is he Morpheus reborn into a new body? Is he not Morpheus and this is just him being wishful? Does he want to take Lawrence out to dinner? I have no idea. All I know is that as excited as I am for the 4th movie, there's some really wild theories out there that suggesting that the trilogy's canon might be changing. Movieweb says that Warner's official synopsis of the trailer suggested that it's erasing the latter 2 movies away from canon. Now, there is a lot of context in here that can definitely suggest that, but for me, that can just as easily be interpreted as the opposite, considering the actual intent of the one and how Neo differs from his predecessors. For all we know, this Trinity and Morpheus may not even be, well, you know.
You're not human, are you?
Well, it's tough to get any more obvious than that.
If I had to guess, I'd say you're a program from the machine world. So is he.
Now, I know the last 2 films kinda got mixed results. The plot kinda did a 180 near the end of the 2nd film, where with the architect, who comes off as so pretentious with his overuse of sesquipedalian dialogue that he fails miserably to get his message across to, well, I would think to at least most people who saw this, at least the first time watching it.
I prefer counting from the emergence of one integral anomaly. The inevitability of its each case.
The inevitability of an infinite way. Get it, you're smart. Jesus Christ, we were just watching a few dudes kick ass for an hour and a half, and the story just throws this guy at us. The actor in this scene is doing a superb job at his role, don't get me wrong, but the information provided in this scene is so ungodly important that if it's not fully understood the first time around, it'll just confuse you even more going into the 3rd film. And it's this confusion I feel is what Warner Brothers might be wanting to eliminate. But if that's really what their intent is, that sure is a lot of one's own work to just ignore and take in a different direction. For most people, I'm sure, the story ended with the last film. But for those of us who played The Matrix online and know the awful truth of Morpheus' fate, it does seem like kind of a big slap in the face to just ignore such a horrible story decision. I don't like that it happened, but I'd rather see Lana Wachowski turn that mistake into something that isn't, not just forget that it ever happened. Of course, that's only in the case that this upcoming movie will indeed erase the canon of the 2nd and 3rd films, because doing so will also invalidate what happened in The Matrix Online. If they got Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss back, why not Lawrence Fishburne? It's not like Keanu and Lawrence don't work well with each other. I mean, crying out loud, we had a little bit of a reunion in John Wick 3. I have no idea who this new Morpheus is, but I'm actually more curious as to who he is than why Neo and Trinity are back. Recast, Reincarnated, or Retconned? Who knows? Whatever the case may be, we can only hope that whatever the 4th movie has in store, well, it'll be for the best.
Under the circumstances, your privileges are reinstated immediately. What do you need?
Okay, so what do you need? Besides a miracle.
Guns. Lots of guns.
Wow, if you watched this far, thank you very much for sticking it all the way through. I hope you enjoyed this little tribute I did for what I feel is one of the greatest supporting characters in a movie. I'm definitely excited for the fourth one. I thought it was just wishful thinking when they first announced it. I really didn't think they were going to make another one, but hey, they did. So if you're going to see the fourth movie, have any theories on what you think it might be? Yeah, I am aware of that John Wick theory. Or even if you're like me and played The Matrix Online yourself, please tell me in the comments. I'd be really interested in reading that. Despite its downsides, I miss The Matrix Online so much. There's no other MMO to this date like it. Just, damn, we really need another Matrix game. If you like the video yourself, please give me a thumbs up. They really help out. Subscribe to if you feel like it. And I'll see you guys in the next video.